Sanskrit may have cultivated a mode of being indifferent, even as it was hospitable to all these other languages. And you say that like it seems to have opened itself to be translated into other languages, but didn't indulge in translation of the other as much. So is it always like a one-way traffic where things go from Sanskrit to other languages, but never from other languages to Sanskrit?
Seem to barely come across in its traversals Sanskrit receiving anything from the languages in any active way. What does it
Mhm.
suggest? It suggests that this particular language has developed in such a way, and whatever the reflections it has developed, these have been self-sufficient, relatively speaking. They are self-sufficient. In other words, they are in a position to continue their reflection and their engagement with the world along with others by means of the resources it has cultivated over a long period of time. And these resources do not seem to make it necessary for the language to borrow anything from. It is not of animosity, nor is any kind of purity as such. All
Right.
languages are, relatively speaking, they're all impacted by other languages. Even within Sanskrit language, one comes across words which are of a different kind of origins. But it has never become, these words and these idioms have never become so significant that they kind of carved out a certain kind of reflection. That carving out of reflection and the use of the language to a large extent have come from the resources that Sanskrit itself has cultivated and developed. This is what I tend to see. The important thing we need to remember is that Sanskrit has never grown, this Anami language has grown always in the midst of various other languages, even in ancient times. For example,
That's correct.
there have been Prakrits and there have been Apabhramsha languages. There was supposed to be a Paishachi language also. Many of the
Mhm.
Sanskrit learners or the Sanskrit pundits were familiar with other languages as well. So Sanskrit grew in a kind of polyglossic or polylingual scenario. Okay. In fact, when you look at later developments, say in the Common Era, you know that many poets were very experts, great experts in fact, writing kavyas, a poetry in Prakrit languages. They wrote in Sanskrit as well as Prakrit languages, but they do
Correct.
not allow the Prakrit language to penetrate into Sanskrit. Examples are
Mhm.
Anandavardhana, examples are Rajashekhara. There are many others of that kind. So there is a certain kind of systemic differentiation of the languages, even when they are familiar with them. Even in the Telugu case, we know that many of the Sanskrit pundits were familiar with Telugu, same is the case with Tamil,